Hello everyone, this is Ariel Tayeb. In this video, I'm going to show you a game which was played by Paul Morphy. And this is the second video I'm showing about the pins of Paul Morphy, how he managed to pin his opponent's pieces. So in this video, I'm going to show you a game which he had the white pieces. And if you want to see the previous video, then feel free to click the first link or the second link in the description down below. It will send you to the video which I already created. And never mind, if you want to see me analyzing specific games, then feel free to leave a comment down below and talk about the chess player you want me to analyze this game, like Kasparov, Morphy, Mikhail Tal, or whatever player that might be. So in this video, I'm going to show you a game which was played by Paul Morphy, and he started with e4. Just a second. e4, e5, knight to f3. Morphy had the white pieces, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. This is the Italian game. Bishop to c5, and here Morphy castled kingside. I mean, in his time in the 1850s, usually people would play b4, which is the Evans Gambit. So if you want me to analyze games that were played in the Evans Gambit, then feel free to write in the comment down below b4, which is the move which was played here. And if you like me to analyze games that were played with c3, which is the Gioco Piano, then feel free to leave a comment down below with the c3. All right. Never mind. In this game, Morphy castled kingside, and Black played kind of unusual move. He played f5. Typically, in these positions, Black plays either knight to f6 or d6. Both of those moves are intending to develop the pieces, because knight f6 prepare castling kingside and also attacking the e4 pawn, and d6 just free up the light squared bishop. But in this game, Black just played f5, which is a bit odd, because Black will no longer castle kingside. I mean, not in the next like 5-6 moves, because even if he gets his knight out, he still cannot castle legally. So I mean, Morphy could just take the pawn. Instead, he decided to play d4. But before I show you, yeah, I mean, because if he takes f5, then Black can play d5, attacking the bishop and creating a discover attack on the pawn on f5. So White will play bishop to b5, and now pinning this knight and preparing knight takes e5. And though Morphy could play this position with the white pieces, I mean, I think what he played was much better, because here, for example, Black cannot just randomly play a move such as e4 to defend the pawn on e5, because now White played knight e5, attacking the knight on c6, and also preparing queen h5 check, which is very dangerous. So I mean, probably Black didn't want to play this, so he could have played knight g to e7, knight takes e5, and now simply castling kingside. I mean, at the end of the variation, White will remain up a pawn, because you can see that in this position, White is up 2 pawns, and he's about to lose the f5 pawn. So White will be down just 1 pawn, but his queenside pieces are not developed. So, I mean, probably this is the reason Morphy didn't like to play this position with White. So he didn't took the pawn on f5. Instead, he gambited his own pawn. He played d4. And after e takes d4, now e5. I mean, instead of grabbing a pawn, Morphy sacrificed one. So Morphy just realized Black cannot very easily castle. So why he didn't want to just take on f5, because you see Black with his last move f5, he committed not to castle kingside. And now if Morphy just randomly takes on f5 and enter this position, Black is able to castle. So he didn't want to enter this area. He just wanted to play against the Black king, which is stuck in the center. So he played d4, e takes d4, and now e5. And Black continued d5. He wanted to blunt the light square bishop. I mean, I entered here a few more moves, because to mention, if knight h6, for example, then Morphy would play bishop to g5, attacking the queen, and after knight e7, he would most likely just take the pawn on d4. And Black is in a very difficult situation, because he still cannot castle. The knight on h6 is a little bit awkward. White is also planning to play queen h5 at some point, and it's a very difficult position to play with Black. And if something like knight g to e7, then most likely White would just continue. I mean, knight g7 is probably the best move, Um, Not quite sure. Probably white will just play c3. c3 to get this pawn away from d4, and after d takes c3, knight takes c3, white will just keep developing his pieces, and black still cannot castle kingside. White will just continue with bishop to g5 and putting queen on e2 with the rooks on e1 and d1. And I'm not quite sure how black is supposed to develop his pieces. He cannot castle kingside, and queenside will take a lot of time. So in this position after e5, black just played d5 to blunt the light square bishop. So e takes d6 en passant, queen takes d6, and now rook to e1 check. Black is forced to do something. Probably the best move in this position would be king to f8. I know it's a little bit awkward to move your king on the f8 square where all the pieces are still, when all the pieces are still on the board, but it would be much better than what black played in the game, because in the game black played knight from g to e7, which is a terrible blunder. I mean, it's still holdable, but quite difficult to play, because in this position white just continue knight to g5, preparing knight to f7, fork on the queen and the rook. And if you would play king f8 and knight to g5, in this position, black can play knight h6. I know this position is extremely uncomfortable because your knight must stay in the corner in order to defend the f7 square. Your king is without castling, and the center is open, so white can develop an attack quite quickly. But it would be much better than what happened in the game, because knight g7, knight to g5, preparing knight f7, and rook f8 simply don't work, because after rook f8 there is simply knight takes h7, forcing the rook back, and now knight g5. You know, white just repeating, and if black continue with rook to f8, then queen h5. I mean, white can create some progress here. Queen h5, he can just redraw his queen back to h3, or maybe just go immediately. Yeah, queen h5 is simple enough. The queen cannot block on g6 because, of course, the knight is pinned, so we can simply take the queen. And if moves such as g6, then queen h7, and black is in some serious troubles because white is about to play knight f7 or bishop to f7. Both of them are winning. So in the game, black played knight to e5, and this is extremely bad move. So I want you to pause this video and find out how white managed to win this game, how Morphy ended the game right here within a couple of moves. So feel free to pause the video and try to find it. So I give you a couple of seconds. Okay, I hope you paused the video. The move which Morphy played, well, just before I show you, don't forget to drop a like to this video. This really helps me and it helps growing this channel. And if you like this video, feel free to share it with your friends, because I'm putting a lot of time to search this content for you. So I would really appreciate it. So in this position, you can't play rook takes e5, though it wasn't played. Rook takes e5, queen takes e5, queen takes e5 and knight f7. This is playable. I mean, probably he didn't play it because after queen f6, knight takes h8, there is bishop to e6, trading the bishops, and the knight still seems to fall. So, I mean, white will maybe be a little bit better, but I'm not quite sure, because after castling queenside, the knight will drop anyway. So, he didn't play it. He played bishop to f4, he pinned the knight. So black was forced to play knight to g6 or knight c6, doesn't matter, because in both cases, white will simply play bishop takes e5, which was played in the game. And after knight takes e5, knight f7, and in this position, black simply resigned because his queen, rook, and knight are under attack, and white is simply about to win too much material here, because if a move such as queen f6, which is very logical, then simply rook takes e5 check, king must move somewhere. You can take the bishop, or if the bishop locks on e7, probably there is even a better line than what I showed. You can just take on d4. White is at least up a piece and is threatening mate on 1 on d8. Also, you can just directly take on h8 and threatening f4 on the next move, winning a knight as well. So black's position is completely lost. This was the second game which I created about Paul Morphy's pins. If you like to see the previous one, I will leave a link in the description down below. You can check it out. If you'd like me to show more games which were played by Paul Morphy, then feel free to leave a comment down below and say Paul Morphy. I hope you like this video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.